All right, we got the top of the hour. Let's go ahead and get started. Lori, did you want to say anything before we get started, or we just want to go ahead and get going?
Yeah, I'm really excited for today's webinar. Let's rock and roll.
Okay. All right, welcome everybody. How to use RPR to create CMAs that amaze. My name is Joe Teeter and I'll be your instructor today. If you guys have any questions at all throughout this webinar, please use the Q&A box. It's easier for me to see the questions in there, and then we'll make sure we get all those answered today before we leave. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. This is being recorded, and I will be sending this over to Mike, and he will get it out to everybody here today. All right, we know that you guys all have lots of options for doing CMAs. There's a lot of software out there, but we wanted to provide you with a CMA tool that really would simplify things for you, but still have that need for flexibility so that you can customize it to fit every one of your clients and customers. Now, RPR CMA tool choices do have a tendency to stand out to the home sellers. I hear it from agents across the country every time I'm out training and they're using one of our tools in the CMA and then sending out the report. They're the ones that are getting the listings because of the reports and all the information that are included on reports and things that you can do to customize the reports, as well as coming up with the value for the home. So I'm going to go ahead and show you all of that today. So when you're pricing with RPR, we have a lot of valuation and analytical tools that can really help you in pricing that property. We're also going to talk about what's the difference between an AVM and an RVM. And I'm going to give you a little more information about those so you can better understand how to analyze those. I'm also going to show you how you can refine the value. So we're starting off with an RVM or an AVM and how you can refine that value based on what that homeowner has done to the property to improve it or not improve it. And then we're going to do two different types of CMAs today. One is a comp analysis, which generates a seller's report. And then I'm going to take you in briefly and just show you that sales comparison analysis also, which will generate a valuation workbook. All right, so the two terms you'll see in RPR, one is an AVM, which is an automated valuation model. This is an estimate that's calculated using the public record information only. And there's a lot of AVMs out there that all of our clients and customers are referring to get the numbers for their house or even a home that they're getting ready to purchase. We have an RVM, which is the realtor's valuation model. So we take all that public available information also, but we're adding in all of your MLS, active, sold, and off-market data. So we combine the two databases together, which gives the highest accuracy of any valuation tool out there on the market. Now, there are three different types of AVMs. There's the hedonic, there's the indexed, and there's also the blended. So when you look at a hedonic AVM, it treats the property as a bundle of valued characteristics such as bedroom, square footage, baths, garage, so on. And then it takes the sum of all of that and then determines the estimated market value as compared to other properties in the area. Then the indexed AVMs, this protects the valuation based on sales trends in a geographic area. They take a look at the specific aspects of the subject property, but they really aren't considered except to select a number of similar properties. So that's an indexed. And then there's also the blended AVM, which combines both the sales trends and the specific property details, and then uses those statistics to show the accuracy or predictions for both the hedonic and index models over time, and then gives each value a weight according to that provider's proprietary formula that's built into the background of their software. Now, there are limitations of AVMs. It actually assumes that a structure exists. It does not take into account that it could have been destroyed by a natural disaster, whether it's a hurricane, a fire, a flood, or tornado, or anything like that. It doesn't know. And it also assumes that it's in average condition. It doesn't take into account any of the upgrades or anything that the agent or the client has, or the homeowner has done to that property. And then the third thing is most of these are advertiser based. And what I mean by that is they sell leads to you, the agent. And that's how they get their site paid for, basically. So it's all advertiser based, and they get leads and they sell those leads to the agents. All right, so now let's talk about an RVM. Now, RVM, again, is the Realtor Valuation Model. And in our RPR, Realtors Property Resource, we use the blended valuation. So it's a combination of the hedonic and the indexed. And keep in mind that this is owned by the realtors. So it's a member, you have to be a member of NAR in order to have access to this. So it is a member benefit. And when you're looking at that RVM, this is really a great starting point for you to price the property. So when you're looking at the RVM up here, you're going to see what the RVM is, the last time it was updated. It's updated once a month. And then we'll click on the view details and it will show you the properties that was used to generate that RVM. But then you also have the range, which this number is typically the average between these two numbers. And so if the property has not been well maintained, maybe it's had some issues, that price could be as low as $453 based on the area, or it could be high as $521 if they've done a lot of updating and kept it well maintained. The confidence score, that means that all 5 of our algorithms that are built into the background of our software are in agreement that this is a good market value and a good starting place to price that property. And then I'll show you another little tool under this little information bubble that you have access to as well that explains in more detail those 5 stars. And then you've got the RVM change over the last month, the change over the last 12 months, and then the last time it was sold and what that price was. So you have a lot of information right up front on every property in RPR. So let's go ahead and take a look at a property. I'm just going ahead and just click on a property that I have found in Columbia, South Carolina is a good property to look at. And you can see here it is currently off the market. The last time it was sold was back in 2017. And here is the listing ID that I can go back in and take a look at, coming from 721. You can see here the RVM. And if I hover over and click on that, it's going to give me a definition of what an RVM is. And so I really recommend that you guys go in and take a look at all those little information bubbles, because it really will help you to understand RPR, and you'll also be able to part with that information and give it to the homeowner or to anybody asks about what is an RVM. And then right underneath that, you've got the view details. So if you click on the view details, it's going to show you all of the properties or some of the properties that were used to generate that RVM of 446,150. So again, here's the range, here's the confidence score. Click on that or hover over it. You do see again what the confidence score is. There is a little document here. If you click on what is an AVM or RVM confidence score, it's going to tell you how to read that score. So if I click on that, just to show you what that looks like, it takes you into our support. And as I scroll down, let me go ahead and zoom in here. You can see here, 5 stars means that the sales price is likely to be within plus or minus 10% of the AVM or RVM 90% of the time. 4 stars is 15%, 3 stars is 20, 2 stars is 25, and 1 star is 30%. Now, if you have a property that has 3 stars or less, you're going to have to do a little more work to try to find good comps. But typically, when you have a 4 or 5 star property, comps are pretty easy to find. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out here. And I'm going to click the back arrow to go back. All right, so again, here is that range here. Here's that confidence score. And again, you can access that document I just showed you by clicking on what is an AVM or RVM. I've got all the basic facts about the property. I can see who the homeowners are, make sure I'm talking to the right person. I've got a picture of the property. Now this property has not been listed since 2017, so it reverts to the Google Street View. Now if you want to look down the street, just click in the middle of that picture, it activates it. And then I can use my mouse and go around the neighborhood and take a look at the neighborhood in either direction. Okay. And then you also have access to the overhead view, so you can see the overhead view. And then you have what the listing agent put in down here. Now, when I'm looking at properties here, specifically this one, that picture is what's going to go on the cover page of any report that I send out about this property. And I really can't see half the house because Google didn't quite get a good straight on view of this property. So what I would typically do is drive by this property and take a really good picture of it before I do my listing appointment so that I can come in here and upload that photo. To upload a photo, all you're going to do is click on Upload Photos here. And it's going to take me into the place where I've got it. Here it is. Click on that and then just click Open. And you can see now it has been added. You can add as many photos as you'd like. So if you've done a preview and walked through the property already and you have other pictures that you want to include, you can go ahead and upload all of those photos if you'd like. It does have a date and time stamp. And then if you want this one to be the cover photo, all you have to do is click on the edit and then come down here where it says use for report covers. Click in there and then make sure you save it. And now that cover photo has been set. If you uploaded a wrong photo, again, just click on edit, click delete, and then make sure you hit save and it will delete that photo. So that's how you can add a photo. Now this is the photo that's going to be used on my cover page rather than this photo here. So again, you've got the definition the listing agent put in, the public remarks. This is a good place to put your notes. So anytime I talk to a homeowner about a property, whether I'm farming or I'm getting ready to list a property or I've previewed the property myself, I'm going to come in here and make notes about that property. So here, let's say the homeowner told me they added attic insulation in March and they spent about $1,000. I'm going to put that information in. Anything else that they have done, I would go ahead and add. So let's say they also replaced the garage door springs and they spent $400 doing that. And that was done approximately June of 2019. So again, it's just a place to put all my notes. And then I always come in here and uncheck that box so that it doesn't go out into any of my reports, what I've typed in here, okay? So it's just kind of a place where I do it. Now, if you guys would look up the same property, you wouldn't see anything that I'm doing to this. And it doesn't make any difference in RPR or back in your MLS or in public records. It just strictly stays in your RPR account until you delete that information. So down here, you can also add a note. You can see I added that and it has a date and time stamp and these are automatically included in your reports. So if I wanted to add the note, I would just click on replaced garage door springs and I could put the date here, let's say June 2019, and maybe not go ahead and put in the price. So I'm going to go ahead and just click add and you can see now it added in the date and the time that I did this. Now you can always come back in and edit and you can also delete if you need to. You've got the homeowner's facts down here. And then you've got the home facts, public versus the listing. And you've got a place down here where you can add your own row. So if you wanted to add another feature, let's say this one backs up to a golf course. I could put in golf, okay, golf course lot, and then click add. And then I could go ahead and say, okay, this is on the 9th tee box. All right. And then just hit save. So you can make your own additions to this list just by clicking on add a row and then making sure that you save it. Now the other thing that you can do here, you can also edit the custom facts. So anytime you've added anything else, like here's some of the ones that I've added: solar panels, water view, mountain view, fireplace, green belt. So based on the features in your area, you can start adding to your list. And then it shows you how many properties that you have it on those lists. So there's 3 properties that have solar panels. There's one property that has a water view, and there's one property that has a golf course lot. You can always delete. Just keep in mind that if I deleted these 3 on solar panels, that all 3 of those properties would delete that information. I'm just going to hit cancel. All right, so you can add your own features, another place for notes. And then again, you've got all of this data that you can go through and kind of hover over and get the information. You can uncheck, you can change the time frame. And then also keep in mind also, click on the about. It is going to give you a definition, a source, and how often it's updated. So take a look at all the information that's in here. So it kind of gives you an idea, location details, flood zone, walkability score, school information, homeowner association, legal description, tax information, deed records. All of this could make a difference when you're looking at a property. Now the other thing is, if you click on History tab, History is going to show you what's been happening with the property over the last few years. Here's your key. And again, you can hover over any one of those icons and it's going to show you that it was sold on 7/24 and it sold for 4/12. I can even go back further and see that it was sold for 4/05 in 2015. Another place for notes. Here's your prior sales transactions. Right now we're looking at public records, but you can also go into the listing records if it's been listed before. And then you can always click on the show more, which will also give you more information. Now this is a great place to really see how good a negotiator they were. So in this case, you can see the latest list price was $425 and they purchased it for $412. So they didn't do too bad as far as negotiating a price for this property. So that's a great way to kind of get to know what kind of a client they're going to be. And then you've got your tax assessment information and you've got your mortgage records. This is also a great place to find out if they've got equity in the home. So you can always click on the show more. You can see the loan amount here back in 2010 was $300. So again, you may have to ask that question to see if they've paid down the loan or where they're at, or sometimes some loans are not public records. So if they took out a credit line like they did back in 2008, another client or another homeowner, it may not be public knowledge. So those are questions that you can ask if you have any questions at all, but a lot of this is all public information here. All right, the other thing I want to point out too is historical records. And you can also get this on the summary tab, but if you click on compare historical records, it's going to give you a side-by-side comparison of the property that was listed in 2017 versus 2016. I can scroll through and look at all the pictures by clicking next here. I can read what the agents put in for public remarks. I can see the price change history. I can see the home facts and if anything has changed from one listing to the next. The listing details, here's the listing ID. I can go back into the MLS and pull those up. I can look at the interior and exterior features and details, who the listing agents were, all the way down to additional information, homeowners association, and legal description. Now, if it's been in more than that, then you just come back up to the top here, click that down arrow, and I could choose any of the others as well as public records. So there's a lot of great information that you can really learn a lot about a property just by looking at the historical records here. All right, the next one over is the charts. The charts is going to give you a little more information about that zip code. Again, you can click on the about. It's going to give you a definition, a source, and how often it's updated. Hover over and get the data, and then change the time frame if you need to. But you can see here's the median sales price versus sales volume, median list price versus list volume. You've got listing inventory. Now, most of these are updated on a monthly basis, except listing inventory is updated daily. And you can see how many for single family, condo, and lots. And then you've got inventory of distressed properties updated daily. You can see how many are in pre-foreclosure or foreclosure. And then inventory of distressed listings is also updated daily. So currently in this area, zip code, we've got 2 that are in foreclosure. But then you also have some other information. It's showing this house and the price per square foot, the median sales price based on the square footage, and then based on the comps here. And then you've got the price per square foot, and it shows the number of homes that are sold in that area. Price of bedrooms, always what your house is, and then the comps. price range, and then age range. So it gives you a lot of great idea when you're getting ready to price a property. So don't forget about that. Now, the next tab over is the Refine Value tab. So based on your knowledge of the area and the information that you have gathered from the homeowner, you can refine this value even further. So right now I have a market value of $446,150. Anything that is wrong in public records, I can go in and make those changes. So if the homeowner has told me, you know, we actually have 3,500 square feet in this property, not the 33, 34 that public records has. So now if I click apply changes, you can see that because I added that square footage, it's going to up the value of that property up to 467. I'm going to go ahead and restore and take it back down. But anyway, you can make any changes here. They may or may not add value or not, just depends on what you do here. Okay, so now we got home improvements. Again, that conversation has to be done with the homeowner to let me know what you have done to the property since you've owned it. So you're going to come in here and you're going to click the down arrow, and we have a whole list of improvements. So they did the attic installation. So I'm going to click on the very first one here. It's going to give me a definition of what the attic installation is. I'll put in when they completed it. So they did this in March of 2018, and they spent approximately $1,000 doing it. Now, when I click add Hanley Wood, and again, if you hover over that little information bubble, it's going to tell you that Hanley Wood is our source for housing development market data, and it produces the home improvement data annually at the regional level. So based on the region of the country the property is located in, it's going to come up and tell me that even though they spend $1,000 in 2018, it's actually increased the value up to 1222 based on that part of the country. Now, not every part of the country is that lucky. It doesn't always increase the value. So you guys are lucky out there. Anything else that they have done, you're going to come in here and select. And if I zoom in a little bit here, let's see if it'll let me zoom in. Nope, not going to. You can see we've got mid-range and you've got upscale. So again, take a look at the description on each one to see which one is closer to what they did. Now, you may not find exactly what they did, but find one that is close. So you've got bathrooms that are mid-range upscale. You've got kitchen, where it's a major kitchen remodel, mid-range upscale. You also have a minor kitchen remodel, mid-range. So again, take a look at all of these. Now, if they've done something that is not on this list, then come all the way down to the bottom and click on Other. And if you click on Other, oh, now it zooms in. Okay, a little delayed there. And type in what they did. So let's say they replaced the garage door springs. And then I'm going to put in, and of course, you've got quite a few characters that you could go ahead and add in more information there. And then choose when they did it. So in this case, they did it in June of 2019. And they spent approximately $400 doing it. That's what they told me. All right, so now when I click add, Hanley Wood doesn't understand what other means. So what they have done for us is, depending on the year that the homeowner did that improvement, it's going to be depreciated out over a 20-year time period. So if they had done it in 2020, they would have gotten the full value of $400. So keep in mind that if they're putting in a new pool and then all of a sudden they have to sell, and it's this year that they just did it, now they got to sell, is that pool really worth the 15 or 20,000 that they put into it? So again, be careful how you do this. You know, again, you guys know the market out there, you know the area. So again, use your judgment when you're using this tool here. Now you can always come back in and remove it here as well. So that's based on home improvements. The next way that you can improve or not. So right now you can see I've got a refined estimate of 447 coming up from 446 here. Let's say I've taken a walk through the property and they need to paint all of the bedrooms. So I'm going to go ahead and put in paint all bedrooms. and they have received a bid, or if they haven't received a bid, then I may need to talk to a contractor or talk to my broker, or maybe someone that's been in the business a lot longer and has dealt with a lot of this, and they have a pretty good idea what it's going to cost. Or you can even go to a paint store. They can give you a good idea of what it's going to cost if you know the square footage. So again, put in what it's going to cost. Let's say it's going to cost them $400 to paint all the bedrooms. And now when I click add, what it does, it subtracts that amount from your estimate over here. Okay. So what I would do is I would keep putting in, let's say they also need to update the guest bath. And it's going to cost them about $800 to do that. And then click add. It keeps subtracting whatever the amount is here from this amount. Now, what other agents have done that I've been told is they'll come in and put everything that that homeowner needs to do to get that property ready to sell, and then show them what their value is. And then what they do is they come back in and they take paint all bedrooms, update guest bath, come up here and put it back in other, and then the cost, and show them again then what the value is up here. So they would do two reports, one with all the needed improvements, and then one with all the needed improvements removed and put up here under as if they had just done it, and then show them what the value of their property is. All right, so I'm just going to keep these here. Go ahead and collapse that so you can see those better. All right, so now I've got a refined estimate of $446,552. Now, based on market and home conditions, this is where your knowledge of the market comes into play. Based on your knowledge of the market and home conditions, what are the local market conditions? Are they slow, average, hot, or somewhere in between? So let's say, I would assume, since everybody else is kind of having a little more than an average market right now with inventory being low, I'm assuming that your market is a little bit on the hot side. So I'm going to go ahead and move this up, and you can tell that as soon as I do, that value changes, and you can see also over here that value has changed. So if I move it up even one more notch, it takes it up. So again, lots of times as agents, we know kind of where this property needs to be priced. And so you can really come in here and narrow it down to the area where you think that value is. And then we'll do a CMA to see. But again, use your judgment here. It's all based on your knowledge. How does the exterior compare to the properties that maybe you're going to be using for comps? Are they inferior, equal, or superior? Maybe your property isn't quite as nice as some of the others, and you can see it just lowered that. And then the interior, maybe the interior is a little bit nicer than some. Again, lot size, maybe this is a little bit bigger because it's on a cul-de-sac, so they've got a little bit bigger lot. What's the view? So again, using your knowledge of the neighborhood and the area, you can refine the value based on the market and home conditions. So you can see now I've added $8,500. So now I'm up to $455. All right. Now, if you don't want to do this tab, that's okay. You don't have to. You can go ahead and leave that alone and just bypass it completely. I'm going to go back to the summary tab and just show you what this looks like now. So now you can see what your RVM is, and you can see what your refined value is based on the things that you just did. So you can either click on Refine Value tab here, or you can click on Edit, and it'll take you back into the same place. Right next to that is Create a Comp Analysis or Build a Comp Analysis. So I can click on Create, or I can click on the tab up at the top where it says Comp Analysis. Either way, it's going to take you to the same place. So you've got a little property summary here about the property. So it shows the amount, shows the square footage, the price per square foot, the lot size, and then the number of beds, baths, and year built. So again, there's two different ways to do a CMA. We're going to start with the very first one, which is the comparative analysis based on the comps that you select. There is a little video here. You can click on that, and it's going to show a little video here that talks about the difference between the two. So you can watch that. We're going to go through the difference here. There are 4 steps to create a CMA. We try to keep this as simple as possible for you guys. And the first step is to confirm the facts. So click on that. Anything that has an asterisk is required. So it has to have something in here coming from public data or possibly even from the listing data. You can see the living square footage here. You can make any changes over here on the right-hand side that is not correct over here. And you can see down here, I've got the golf course lot that has been brought over from the summary page. So anything you do on that summary tab, and then you do a CMA, it is going to be brought over into your CMA. If you want to delete, there is that little trash can. I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and it takes it right out of there. You can always add another row if you need to, if you forgot to do it on the summary tab. All right, so I'm going to come down and confirm the facts and close. The second step is to find the comps. So I'm going to click on Find Comps. Now, if you know of a property that's down the street or maybe the next street over or two that's got the exact same floor plan, just recently sold, and you want to use it, you can put in the address or the MLS listing ID and then come over here and click Add, and it will be added over here into this panel as part of your CMA. I'm going to let the computer help me here. So again, you got your thumbnail up here at the top if you forget. It's going to default to what the property type is in the subject or in the public records. And then the three defaults for property status is active, pending, and sold. If you want to add something else, just click on it and then that will be included as well. But you can add any of those or all. You can add in keywords. So if your property has a pool or it has solar panels or anything like that, you can add all those keywords in there, and then it will also help to find other properties that have those same features. I'm just going to leave mine blank here. You've got the date. So within either the last week or the last 18 months, you can just determine on how far back you want to go. I'm going to leave mine at 6 months here. Or if that doesn't work, you always have a date range that you can also put in. The property details is going to be searching for beds, baths, and living square footage. You can go ahead and put in an upper number if you'd like, or you can leave it blank. It's up to you. The living square footage is approximately 10% on either side of your subject property. So our subject property, I believe, was about 3372 or 3334, something like that. So there's about 10% on either side. And you can narrow that down. So if I want to go up to 2,600 or down to 4,200 or even lower, depending on the number of comps that you're going to get, that might be beneficial also. You also have lot size, price range, price per square foot, year built. These are all 4 that you can also add in to your search criteria. And then you can see on the map where my property is located. Now, what is showing on the property or on the map is where your comps are coming from. Sometimes you may need to zoom out a little bit, and you may need to move your map around so you get the biggest area where the residential properties could be coming from, okay? So now once you've got your map identified, I'm gonna go ahead and come back down here and click search. And you can see where my comps are coming from here. Now up at the top, you can also come in and draw a shape, whether it be a box, a radius, or polygon. You can also, if you're farming the area and you've saved it, you can also go ahead and use one of your custom areas that you've saved. Or you can use a geography, whether it be a neighborhood or a school district, to narrow it down to your properties, okay? I'm just gonna keep mine right here. All right, so you can see here's where my properties are located. And now I can start selecting properties. So you can click right on the map, and you can see this one is on Hampton Creek. I can see what the square footage is, the number of beds and baths, what it's sold for. And then if I zoom in here a little bit so you can see, it says use this as a comp. So if I want to use this property as a comp, I'm just going to place a check mark in there. I'm going to go ahead and X out. And then if I zoom back out, you're going to see that this property now has a little black, which means it's been selected. And then you can see that this property now has been selected down here as well. And this is the one that I just identified and has the check mark in it. So it identifies the properties that you have already selected. So you can select right from the map if you want, or you can come down here. You can see I've got 21 properties that have been used or have found for my comps. They're all sorted right now by proximity. And anytime you see this little star, that means this was a property, here's another one, that was used to generate that RVM of the 446,150. Okay, so that's an indication on those properties. Now, if you want to use those, you can. If you don't have to use them. But let's go ahead and select another one. So I'm going to go ahead and select this other one on Chimney Hill. And you can see how it automatically inserts it over here. And then let's go see if we can find one more here. So you can click on any one of these addresses and go in and look at all of the details about the properties. You can also click on details here, and it's going to give you a few more details about the property if you need it. But again, click on any one of those addresses to go in and take a look. Let's go ahead and select this one here on Hampton. So I've got 3 properties right now so far. And again, if I scroll all the way down to the bottom of here, if I want to use a property that is for sale also, I can go ahead and select. So let's say I want this one preserved there in Columbia. I can go ahead and select that one too. So again, select as many as you want. Let's go ahead and select one more here. Let's go ahead and select this one here. All right, so now I've got the properties that I want. Obviously, I would take a little more time than I'm doing today to really select the properties. You can see what the average range now is for the range based on the comps that I have selected. So now when I click Update Valuation and Close, it's going to give me the average of my comps. So I can always go back in and click Edit and select different comps, or I can just come down here to Adjust Comps, and it takes me in. I can see I've got 5 properties here. I can see what my RVM is, or what the market value is now for my property. I can put them in the order that I want. So let's say, for instance, hit the next here. It's going to go in and show you the other properties that you have selected here. So if I want this one on preserved to be in the 2nd position, I would just come up to the top here and click 2nd. And then when I go back, you can see now that that one has been moved into the 2nd position and it's for sale. So again, put them in the order that you want. You can also select which listing record that you want. If it's been listed before, you can choose any of the other listing records, or it could be a public record. So you can see this one sold back in 7/6. If I want to go ahead and use the listing record, it may or may not change the date or the price, but then you can select and get the data there. All right, the other thing is you can also look at the photos. Click on the bigger photos. You can scroll through and look at the photos. Just keep in mind that whatever photo you leave it on is what's going to be in the report. So I always like to have the front feature of the house so they have all the same pictures. There are times when maybe this one's the kitchen, and then I've gone ahead and selected the kitchen on every one of my properties. So you can be very selective based on the photo that you have over here, or maybe the majority, the very first picture is, you know, a big feature of that property. So highlight whichever one that you want. I'm going to click smaller photos here. You can also do historical listing details on each one and take a look at that. See how many times it's gone on the market and off the market. Change the price. That gives you an indication of what's going on in that neighborhood. The other thing I want to point out also is up here. All right, let's see. Most of these are done recently. If you have to pick a property that was sold back in March or April, and the market has been crazy since then, and you know that that property now is worth more, you can come in and click on the address of any one of those that you want to do a CMA, and you can do a CMA right on the spot. And then it's going to show up in the drop-down list. It'll say comparative analysis right underneath. And then you can use your comparative analysis as part of this current CMA. All right. And then you have the opportunity to decide, okay, how does this property compare to my subject property? Let's say this one's the same. Maybe this one's a little bit nicer, so I'm gonna go ahead and move that up. Maybe this one is just a little bit nicer. And then I'm gonna go ahead and hit next. And I'm going to go ahead and go, well, this one isn't quite as nice as mine. And this one really is not very good compared to mine. So again, you can see based on your knowledge that it's going to take that value either up or down. And again, if you want to adjust it, go ahead and adjust it, and you can kind of get that price to where you think it needs to be. You also have a little map here that shows where your properties are located in relationship to each other. So how can it be adjusted? Again, just moving that slider either direction will make those adjustments, again, based on your knowledge. So again, you can do that just based on your knowledge and moving those sliders. So I wouldn't have to move that slider quite so much depending on my knowledge, okay? So again, you've got the little map here that shows where all the properties are located. Hopefully that answered your question, Susan. You got your side-by-side comparison of each one. And then down here, you've got a place for notes. So you can really talk about how each property compares to your subject property. Maybe you've been through each one and you can talk a little bit about it. You can also see that this one has a crawl space. This one's got piers. So again, this one's brick, this is brick veneer. So you can talk about some of the differences and why those prices are the way they are. And then down here, you can see what the total adjustments are. And then just click Update Valuation and Close. And it's going to show you your adjustments and then the results. Now, I typically don't give my sellers a number like this. I'll just come in and take a look. Now, before I do that, if I go back to my Summary tab now, I can see what my RVM is. I can see the result of my CMA, and I can see what my comp analysis is. So now I have a pretty good idea maybe where I need to price this property. So if I go back into the comp analysis here and scroll down, let's go back down here to edit. And let's say we want to list the property for $499,000, okay? That could be in your report. Or if you would rather give them a range, let's go ahead and list it anywhere from $460 to $499. All right, and then click Save, and then that's what's going to show up in your report. So that's the 4 steps to doing a CMA. Then the last step is to create the seller's report. So I'm going to click on Create a Report. It's going to default to the seller's report. Click on the More Details. And again, you can see all of the custom pages that you have added in. If you don't remember or weren't on the last webinar, if you need to add a custom page, over here under Manage Custom Pages, it's where you'll add those in. They do have to be in a PDF format, no larger than 10 megabytes. All right, so again, select the pages that you want to include. So you'll do that. You can hover over that information bubble, and it's going to give you some information on what it's going to look like. Decide what you want. I typically, when I'm giving it to the seller, they already know what their property looks like, so I don't always include the photos. This report is one of our largest reports, and so it could be as high as 100 pages long if you put everything in. So I typically don't put those in. Depending on the mortgage records, I sometimes do or sometimes don't. Depends on whether I want to open up a can of worms or not. But again, that's up to you. Again, hover over any of these and you'll get what that page looks like. You've got market activity here in active, pending, recently sold, distressed, and expired. And if you want to add any of those in there, I went ahead and added the market activity just so you could see what those are, what it looks like. But it's a side-by-side comparison of 4 properties in the area that will be competition for them. If you do select one of those, you'll come down here where it says Limit Market Activity Sections, and then you could choose either 4 properties or 8. I'll leave it at 4. And then you also can select whether you want just the side-by-side of each of those statuses. So you'd have 4 or 8 side-by-side, or you would have an individual page on each of those 4 or 8 properties, or both. And that's what I'm going to show you guys, is both. So you can select that. The other thing is you can also put in the seller's proceeds. And then down here, you can include the seller's proceeds entries. Now, let's go back to the property details to show you where you can get that. Let's go back to the summary page. And down here, where it says add a note, upload photos, right next to that is the seller's proceeds. And if you click on that, now you can go ahead and put in, okay, so if the property sells for $460,000 or it sells for $485,000, and then what their loan is, let's say their loan is $365,000, I'm just guessing here, $365,000. You're putting your commissions, 24, I'm just rounding up here. And then you can go ahead and put in all the other information here, but you can see you're going to end up with what the net cash to seller is down below based on what you put in here. Now you can go down and save and print, take it with you, or you can save and close, which I'm going to do. And now when I go back into the report and I click on the more details, now when I do this report, I'm going to make sure that I have my seller's proceeds checked, and I've also got my seller's proceeds checked. So I've got all that information. I know it's going to be included in the report. Now, the other thing I want to point out is these 3 items that are not checked. You can suppress the estimated value for the subject property. In other words, if you don't want them to see the RVM or the AVM, then you can place a check mark and they're not going to see that. So if you don't want to explain it, or you don't feel comfortable explaining it, or you think it's way off from what you came up with, then you may not want to use that. You can also suppress the estimated value for the comps as well. So if you don't want them to see it for any of the comps that you've selected, then make sure you've got a check mark in there. And then the last way is the refined value. So sometimes you have a homeowner that puts more into the house than it's actually worth right now when they update. So if you don't want them to see what number you came up with for the refined value tab, you may want to place a check mark in that box as well. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck all 3 of those. And then the next step again is to personalize it. I typically, depending on whether you do a 1-step or 2-step listing appointment, you could go ahead and send it out to them, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner. I'll just put their name like that. And then type in the call to action here message to them. All right, and then choose that delivery method. And typically, I send it out to them. We've already talked about the price, so I will go ahead and send that out to them prior, and then just up here in the call to action say, please review this report, and when I come over tonight, or we do a virtual appointment, however you're doing it, then you could go ahead and talk about some of the questions that they had during that report. Or you can go ahead and download it as a PDF and then just have it on your computer if you're doing a virtual. And then if they want a copy of that, then you can come back in and email it to them. Click Run Report is the last step. It's going to tell you how long it's going to take. Here is what that report would look like. Now, this is the one, what it would look like if you use the Google Street View picture. Now, once the other report comes up, we'll have a different picture. I'll show you what the difference is between the two. But then all of your contact information is here on the front, all of your extra pages. And then it goes in and shows what the estimated value is, what your refined value is, and then the result of your CMA. Your public facts. So it goes through all of the data that I've showed you is all in this nice report. This report is 34 pages long, but it also shows you where you've moved the sliders, how much value it added or took away. Here's the home improvements and the value added, and then the needed improvements, and then the value that it took away. And then you've got a lot of the charts and graphs here, the mortgage records, the deed records. Here's your sales and financing activity, estimated home values, a lot of the more charts and graphs here. Let me scroll down here and get to the meat without making you too nauseous. Here's the comps map. So here's my property, and then here's the 3 comps that I use for this particular one. But you can see agent selected, and then the comps that we selected here, side by side. Then they get the individual picture and all the data about each property. There's Hampton Creek, and there's the other one on Hampton. And then they get all the recent activity broken down by the different categories on the left-hand side, and then the different statuses across the top. And then here's that market activity. This is for the active properties. Here's their subject property. And then here's 4 properties that are nearby that are competition or might be. And then they get the individual page on each of those properties. So that's kind of what it would look like, depending on whether you choose the side-by-side or the individual page. It's up to you. And then you get the recommended pricing strategy, the sold comparison, and then the refined value analysis, the result of your CMA, place for you to sign, for them to sign, And then if you've added any other pages or your seller's proceeds, that would show up in here, as well as any other photos or notes will also show up in here too. Okay. So that's typically what a seller's report would look like. This is what the report would look like if you had the other picture. So again, sometimes that picture can make a difference on that first look. So here's the one look, and then here's the other one. So again, you decide on how you want, but that does make a difference, I think, when you're looking at the seller's report. All right, so that is a seller's report.
Hey, Joe.
Yes.
It's Lori. We have a really good question from Susan, and I hope she doesn't mind me sharing it publicly because I think some other people might be wondering the same thing. So Susan asks, is this report for the realtor or the seller? And if for the realtor, you know, is this a lot of information? So Susan, that's a great point. This is for you to use the tools to get to the valuation that you think is appropriate for that property, but for then you to share that seller's report with your seller. And one of the neat things about the RPR CMA is that you get, as Joe's pointing to here, you get to customize. So if you have a homeowner who is an engineer and is really into a lot of facts and details, you can just run the gamut. As Joe mentioned, you can run up to 100 pages. Say you have a seller who just says, give me the bottom line, show me the comps. Well, then just pick and choose what you think here is going to send a message to them and resonate and be able to give them adequate market data.
What I really recommend that you guys do is actually do a CMA, send the report to yourself so you can become familiar with all of the pages that can be included. And then when you do have somebody who just wants the basic facts, you're going to know which pages that you want to include. You can even take this down to, 5 pages easily. So it just depends on the amount of information that your client is needing, okay? Let's see, we got another one here. Are the number of comps basically looking at house data and square footage only? Again, it all depends on the details that you select when you're doing a CMA. So let's go back here and let's go ahead and do the other CMA, and I'll point that out again here. What if my client's lot is 3 times larger than all the others? And then that's what we're getting to. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and click on edit here. It's gonna take me back into my comp analysis tab. Let's go ahead and do a sales comparison analysis. Now, when you click on that, this screen's gonna pop up first. If you are a licensed appraiser and realtor, you can go ahead and put in your state, your license number for your appraisal license, and then click OK. But if you're not, just go ahead and click Don't Show Again and skip this step, and you can just bypass this. So I'm going to go ahead and skip. And now I'm in there. Again, there's a little video that talks about the difference. So it's the same 4 steps as we just did, but you have full control here. If you cannot find enough comps, and like Nyla was just saying, you have a lot that's 3 times larger than all the others in the neighborhood, how do I use that? Okay, so come over here again, confirm the facts. So again, you've got some basic facts up here. Anything that has an asterisk, again, is required. And then if I scroll down, I have a lot more features. So again, you can really get your features in here, and you've got add a row down here, but you can make any of these changes based on the comps and the features of the house that you want to make corrections from the public records. So again, I'm just going to come down and confirm the facts here. Now, next step is to find the comps. All right, so now, because we've already done one, and I'm just going to do this because of time, I'm going to go ahead and copy the comps that we've already used or found. So if you want to copy those, you're going to click yes. If you don't want to copy and you want to start completely from scratch, then go ahead and select no, and then you won't have to use the comps that you've already selected. For time's sake, I'm just going to go ahead and click yes. And you can see those 5 comps now have been added back in on this particular CMA. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and come down to adjust comps. And you can see my 5 comps. You can see the order that I've already placed them. And then Everything is pretty much the same. So you can put them in whatever order that you want. You can choose whatever listing record that you want. You can look at the photos. You can also see where they're located. You have the historical listing details on each one. And then this is where it starts getting changed. So sales and financing concession. If anything has been different or there was a sales and financing, you can make those adjustments here. But let's scroll down. So you can see my property has 5 bedrooms. This one's got 4, this one's got 4, this one's got 5. So I need to make my comps same as my subject property. So this is where you're going to need to know the values, and you're going to need to either talk to an appraiser, a broker, or an agent maybe that's been in the business a long time and has done a lot of comps and has seen a lot of appraisals. Then you can get that information from them. So let's say in this particular neighborhood, again, I'm pulling numbers out of the air. I have no idea what the values are out there. So please don't take my values that I'm using. I'm just using this for demonstration purposes and ease of math. All right, so because I've got one less bedroom here than my subject property, and each bedroom is worth $5,000. So I'm going to add $5,000 to this property to make it the same as my subject property. I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to add $5,000 to that. So you can see now I've added an extra bedroom to each of those properties. This one's got 5, this one's got 5. If you've got more properties, all right, so here I've got, let's go ahead and add 5,000 to this one and 5,000 to this one. All right, now baths. So this one's got 4.5 baths. This one's got 4.2. This one's lacking 1 bathroom. So again, I'm going to go ahead and add 5,000 to this one and 5,000 to this one because they need an extra bath. And I'm going to go back to the other 3 and do the same thing. So this one's got 4. This one's got an extra bath. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 5,000. So you put the minus and then the amount, and I'm going to add 5,000 to this one. All right, so this is what you would do throughout the entire one. So here I've got living square footage, 33 versus 36, close enough. This one's got 37. If you want to make any changes, this one's got 1,000 more. So let's say it's $100 a square foot in this area. So I'm going to subtract, and I'm just going to subtract 50,000. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 50,000 from this property here. And then let's come back up here to the top and do the same thing. So let's see, this one doesn't have very much. It's got 400 more. So let's say it's 100. So I'm going to add 40,000 to this property. This one's got 400 more. So again, you kind of see what I'm doing here. I would take a calculator, obviously, and then I would also know what my values are for each of the differences between my comps and my subject property. If the lot size, you can see the lot size here, this one's a little bit larger. Again, and this one's even larger than that. So again, based on your area, what is the price of a lot per acre or per yard or however square footage out there? You need to put in that information, and again, either add or subtract based on what your subject has here. Garage, this one doesn't have a garage. So if that's the case and I need to add, let's say $5,000 is typically what a garage costs in that area, then I would go ahead and add that. So you kind of see how I'm getting all of my comps now to be very similar to my subject property. This is a good CMA for, again, properties where you are in an area where you can't find enough comps. Maybe it's a new subdivision and there just aren't any sales in that area and you have to go outside, or it's a unique home or even a custom home. You may have to use something like this, but you have this option here where if you know your values, you can make your comps very similar to your subject property. All right, then coming on down here, and I would continue to do this even maybe for the year built and so on, but you can down here and you can see now the adjustments here that have been done. And because I have 5 properties, they're all equally weighted at 20%. So you can click on edit on any one of those, and you can see all of your properties in the status, the address, and then you can see how they're all weighted equally. Now, if you want to auto weight it, so right now I've got the results of 549 here. If I come up to the top right here and I click on auto weight, based on the number of adjustments that I did up above here, adding and subtracting, it's going to auto weight and give that amount, and then it's going to give you the result. The third way that you can make those changes based on your knowledge of the market, let's say Chimney Hill, I want to actually take that up to 19%. So now you see I'm at 103. It has to equal 100% in order for you to move on. And let's take this last one down to 5, and then I'll take this one down to 21. Has to equal 100% in order for you to do that. So there's 3 different ways to do that. Weight equally, weight auto weight, or you can do the adjustments yourself based on your knowledge. Now here's the result of my CMA. Now all I have to do is click apply and close, and then click update valuation and close way down at the bottom here. And here is the result. So again, I would come in, I can enter one value, or I can give them a range, and then just go ahead and hit save once you've done that. And then when you click on the last step, which is create the report, it's going to default now to the valuation workbook. This is the only report that has a specific function, okay? And again, click on that more details, and you're going to be able to see all of the pages that can be included. Now, again, if you've got someone that is a lawyer or an engineer or someone that needs a lot of information, if you come in here and use this one, it's going to blow their minds, because you've got map layers and you've got so many more pages in here that can really help them understand the market, understand the property values and everything. So again, you're just going to select the pages that you want to include. If you are an appraiser, you can put in your case number here. You can add the number of photos that you want to include. You can restrict your photo. I think the default, or the report area, I think the default is 0.8. I'm going to just leave it at 1 mile here because that's what I used. You can also choose how many listings you want per section. And in this case, I just kept it at 10. And then you can include your notes, but you can also suppress those 3 just like you can on the regular CMA. Come down and personalize that report, and then choose your delivery method. And this is what that report would look like. So let me come down here. So again, it looks very similar to the same as we just showed you. All the home facts. Here's the extended home facts. Here's all the historical photos if you included that. And again, this is about 48 pages long. Sales and financing activity. And then here's the aerial map, the bird's eye map, even the flood map. And then here's the result of your CMA analysis. And then it gives you all the properties that you used, where they're at on the map. And then they get that side by side, and then any changes that you have done are going to show up either in blue or red based on whether you subtracted or added. And then it always gives them the net adjustments, gross adjustments, and so on, and the comp weighting on each of the properties. And then they get the individual page on each one as well. So they can see what the sold price was, the adjusted price, the net and gross adjustments. And then they also get the pictures. And then here's the second property. And then all the photos. Third property. And the photos. And then this is the part I really like, because it gives me the local market conditions. Over the last 7 to 12 months, 4 to 6, 3 months, whether the properties go up or down or sideways. So if you don't know, this is a great place to really learn about what's going on in your neighborhood, so that when you are out talking to people, you know what's going on. Like, here's the absorption rate, total number of active listings, month of housing supply. This is a great place to get that information. And then here's also similar sales of similar size properties. Again, the trend over the last 7 to 12, 4 to 6, and 3 months. And then a lot of the charts and graphs. And then down at the bottom here, you get some more heat maps here. And then here are the active listings and so on. So this one's got a lot of great information. And again, depending on your client, you can really personalize it and choose which pages you want to include. All right. So those are the two different ways to do a CMA. I'm sure you guys are all overwhelmed, but hopefully that has kind of helped a little bit. Now keep in mind that on the mobile devices, you also can do a CMA. It's just a quick CMA. And then based on what criteria that you have on your report, what you've checked and unchecked, it will automatically send out a report if someone needs a quick CMA. But again, all the data I showed you can also be done on these two devices. So what I want you guys to do today is go in and do a, your house, take your home where you're living right now and do a sales comparison analysis or do a simple CMA and then run the report and have it sent to yourself so that you can kind of practice. And you can do this as much as you need to. The more you do a CMA, the easier it's going to get, and then you'll be able to do it on the fly. But if you need help, you can always contact us at this number. Our support links are at the bottom of every page. But I also want to show you, let me go back home here. Up at the top, right next to your name, you're going to see a little pulsating purple button. And if you click on that, we now have shortcuts to a guided tour. So this box is going to pop up to create a CMA. If you click on that, it's going to walk you through literally step by step on how to do a CMA like I showed you today. Get ready to get started. Okay, show me. And then it's going to tell you step by step, enter a property and walk you through a CMA. Is there a way to find out how much bedrooms, bathrooms, fireplaces? Carol, the only way you can do that is to wine and dine an appraiser or talk to your broker. That's another great way. I know when we were actually having office meetings, we had an appraiser come into our office and they talked to us about property values, how to do what we just showed you. So I would maybe get your broker to have an appraiser come in and do a class for you, and then you can get a lot of that information so it can help you with your CMAs. That would be my recommendation. All right, are there any other questions or anything I need to go back over? Everybody's quiet. Thank you, Phyllis, appreciate it. All right, if there aren't any questions, again, I'm gonna go ahead and this has been recorded. I'm gonna send this over to Mike and Mike will get it out to everybody. I wanna thank everybody for joining me today for RPR CMAs that Amaze. Hopefully this has been very helpful to everybody. So make it a great day, stay safe, have a great weekend, and thank you again for joining me today for the RPR webinar. Bye, everybody.